Before you call any blind company, before you go to any showroom, before you order anything, measure your windows. Accurate measurements make everything faster, easier, and less likely to go wrong. And the good news is that measuring windows is something anyone can do with the right tool and the right method. Let's walk through it step by step. First, to get the right measuring tool. This sounds obvious, but it's where people go wrong. You need a steel measuring tape. Not a fabric tape measure, not a plastic one that bends, and definitely not a measuring app on your phone that uses your camera. A steel tape gives you a rigid, accurate measurement that doesn't flex or sag in the middle of a long span. For windows, this matters because even a quarter-inch error in your measurement can mean a blind that doesn't fit correctly, gaps on the sides, or a blind that won't slide into the frame. A good steel tape measure costs about $10 at any hardware store. It's worth having one. Second, understand the two types of mount. This is the most important decision you'll make before you measure, because the two mount types require completely different measurements. Inside mount means the blind is installed inside the window frame, sitting within the recess of the window opening. It looks clean and built in, like the blind belongs to the window. The blind sits flush with the wall. Inside mount works best when your window frame has enough depth, usually at least 2 inches, to accommodate the headrail of the blind. For this mount type, you measure the inside of the window opening. Outside mount means the blind is installed on the wall above the window frame and extends past the frame on the sides. You use this when your window frame is too shallow for an inside mount, when you want to make the window look larger than it is, or when you want maximum light blockage, because an outside mount covers the frame itself, eliminating the light gaps you sometimes get with inside mounts. For this mount type, you measure the area you want the blind to cover, not just the window opening. How to measure for an inside mount. Measure the width of the window opening at 3 points, at the top, the middle, and the bottom of the opening. Why 3 points? Because windows in Toronto homes, and especially older homes, are not always perfectly square. The frame may be slightly wider at the top than at the bottom, or vice versa. Take the smallest of your 3 width measurements. This is the number you give to your blind company. The blind will be manufactured slightly smaller than this measurement, usually a quarter to a half-inch smaller, to allow it to fit and operate without binding. Now measure the height at 3 points. Left side, center, and right side. Again, take the smallest measurement. Write everything down as width by height. Always width first, then height. That's the industry standard. How to measure for an outside mount. Decide how far you want the blind to extend beyond the window frame on each side. For light control and appearance, 2 to 3 inches each side is typical. For maximum light blockage, go wider. Add your extensions to the width of the window frame, and that's your blind width. For height, decide where the blind will mount at the top. Usually this is 2 to 4 inches above the window frame or up to the ceiling if you want a tall, elegant look. Measure from that mounting point down to where you want the blind to end. Typically, this is just past the window sill. 1 to 2 inches past is standard. If there's no sill and the window goes to the floor, measure to the floor and subtract a half inch so the blind doesn't drag. Common measuring mistakes and how to avoid them. Measuring the glass instead of the opening. A lot of people measure the visible glass area, not the full window opening. For an inside mount, you need the full opening, frame to frame. The glass is recessed from the frame and is always smaller than the opening. Measuring once and trusting it. Measure twice minimum. On a more expensive custom order, measure 3 times. It takes 30 extra seconds and it can save you from an expensive remeasure and remake, not accounting for obstructions. Before you measure for an inside mount, check the depth of the frame. Is there a window crank handle inside the frame? A latch? A deep sill that would interfere with the blind? These obstructions can prevent an inside mount from working at all, and you need to know before you order. Forgetting to measure multiple windows separately. Even windows that look identical in a room are often slightly different sizes. Measure each window individually, never assume they're the same. Giving your measurements to the manufacturer versus giving them to a professional. When you order from a big box store or an online retailer, you give your measurements and they make what you specify. If those measurements are wrong, you eat the cost. When you work with a professional installer like Joe's Blinds, we measure ourselves before anything is ordered. Your measurements are useful for initial discussions and quotes, but we always confirm with our own tape before placing an order. That extra step is part of what you're paying for when you use a professional. The assurance that the blind will fit before it's made. What to do with your measurements. Once you have your measurements written down, width and height for each window, noting which are inside mount and which are outside mount, you're ready to have a proper conversation with a blind company. Bring those measurements to a showroom or have them ready when you call. It immediately makes the conversation more productive and allows the company to give you accurate pricing rather than rough estimates. Write the room name next to each measurement as you go. Master bedroom window, 48 by 72. Living room left window, 36 by 84. It's simple, but it prevents confusion when you're comparing multiple windows and multiple products. At Joe's Blinds, we offer free in-home measurements across Toronto and the GTA. We come to you, we measure everything properly, and we take that variable completely off your plate. It's the best way to make sure what you order is exactly what fits. Call us to book your appointment.